So for a while now, I definitely feel like the landscape of the gaming industry is slightly starting to change back to what it used to be. Because I definitely feel like for a while there, DEI was definitely on the forefront of a lot of these companies' minds, and a lot of the developers within these massive AAA companies were starting to push it and make it like it was such an important thing within video games. Whereas a matter of fact, a lot of actual gamers ourselves didn't really like it and didn't really care for it, and noticed that it was just making games a lot worse. And I feel like with these recent comments that were made about Asmongold in what I think is like a podcast, but it's a recent clip that was floating around and it made its way onto his Reddit, I definitely think that the comments that these guys made is 100% proof that the gaming landscape is starting to 100% change. So I'm not going to show the clip itself because it is in Czech, and apparently the translation through the subtitles aren't really the greatest, but this right here is the transcript that is from said clip, so we're going to go ahead and read it out. So this is Dan Vavra says the corporations are scared of critical YouTubers, Asmon and others, and this also features some of the developers of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and they themselves have come out in the past and spoken very positively about Asmongold and talk about how much they like his takes, and when it also comes to, you know, him being entertaining. But within this clip, it says, listen, I've heard that there being big developers slash companies really scared of hate tubers, let's say. The kind of guys who started criticizing Critical Drinker, Asmongold, and others who started criticizing big companies. And I thought it was so niche. Okay, he's being Asmon, got like 1 million followers. His videos have some impact, but it's definitely not what everybody is watching. And now I found out from some people that companies are really terrified of them, and it's really having an impact. That when somebody starts to critique the game and the corporate world, that it does have an impact, and it's unsustainable how these corporations do it, considering that they've now made games that nobody wanted, and they even said it when those gamers started complaining that they didn't like it and they didn't want that kind of game, and the developers started telling them that they were stupid and that it wasn't a game for them, which is completely bizarre that you're insulting your own customers. So the clip itself and what this guy said, I 100% agree with majority of it. Now, when it comes to like him saying that, you know, these companies necessarily shouldn't really listen to these so-called people that are getting, you know, like Asmongold or Critical Drinker, when it comes to listening to the critiques that these guys are giving on video games, I definitely think that it's good to listen to these people to a certain extent. Now, me, myself, I've said it before, I am a massive Asmongold fan. I watch Asmon every single day. I mainly consume his content through YouTube because I live here in Australia. So whenever he's streaming, it's more like very early morning for me here. So I end up just watching his YouTube videos throughout the day. I love his content and I respect every single thing that he says, even if sometimes every once in a while, which is not very often, that I may disagree with like a couple of things here and there, I still respect his opinion immensely. And I think it's good that these companies are starting to listen to people and should be scared of people like Asmongold, not because he has this big influence, but because he is speaking for the general gamer. To me, Asmongold is very much a representation of just your average gamer, your average consumer. That's how he goes about things every single time. And the reason why his videos do so well, a lot of people may think that, oh, the only reason why, you know, people agree with Asmongold is because he's so big. You know, if he was a smaller YouTuber or he was a smaller content creator, no one would really care with what he has to say. That I completely disagree with. People agree with Asmon because he has the majority opinion, because his opinion is what other people are saying. People agree with Asmon because that's exactly what they think. When it comes to all this DEI and pushing these political statements and ideologies in games, no one really cares about it. And a lot of people agree with him because that's exactly what they're thinking. He's not sitting there with a hypnos on his video saying, you must agree with what I'm saying. No. And a way that I can prove it is through my channel. I am not a big creator. I've only got like just a bit under 4,000 subscribers. I think at this point of me recording, I've got like 3.7k subscribers. And if you look at some of my videos in recent times, I've made a lot of videos of when it comes to, you know, these really bad games that have come out in recent times, say such as, you know, Dragon Age the Vanguard, and then comparing Concord to Marvel Rivals. I've made several videos on like DEI and how bad I think that, you know, mainly Western developers are pushing stupid ideologies in video games. And those videos have done extremely well for someone of my size. And if you look at the like to dislike ratio on these videos, majority of people have liked these videos because they agree with what I'm saying, and I don't have a big influence. These people don't know who I am. The only video that has gotten somewhat of a little bit of pushback was my video about what the female gamers want, and that's because it got shared on r/gaming circle jerk, which is a completely like left-siding Reddit page where they absolutely hate anyone that talks against DEI or political ideologies within video games. And even then, despite it get sharing to this subreddit, it's still got over 70% of a like ratio. And also to what that guy said in the second part as well, of when it came to like, you know, these companies making games for people that don't exist, and then they started insulting their own customers. That right there is 100% true, where he said, considering that they've now made games that nobody wanted, and they even said it when those games started complaining that they didn't like it and they didn't want that kind of game, and developers started telling them that they were stupid and that it wasn't a game for them, which is completely bizarre, that you're insulting your own customers. Yes, for so many times, I've seen so many examples of this over the last few years, where these developers and these companies make games that people don't like, that people find are really terrible. It's like, this game is shit. We don't like the design of the game. We don't like the story of the game. We don't like the fact that the game's pushing this. We don't like the this and this and this. And then developers come out and say like, oh, well, you guys are stupid. The game's obviously not for you, so you shouldn't be playing it. And the funny thing is that you're insulting your own customer base, and then you go ahead and nobody buys the game. And then you complain that nobody bought the game after insulting your customers. It's like, it doesn't make sense. So these companies should start listening to people like Asmongold and even maybe smaller people, because these people have the majority opinion. People like me, you may not like what I have to say. You may hate the fact that I may bash on the fact that I think that pushing political ideologies in games is stupid, or that I think that pushing DEI in games is stupid. You may hate with what I have to say, but I'm not wrong. And majority of people think the exact same thing. That's what they think. And these companies should start re-listening to these people, because if you go back to like over 10, 15 years ago to companies like Ubisoft and BioWare, they just focused on making great games. And yes, these games had political themes in them, and that's completely different. I've even mentioned it in a previous video as well, is that there's a massive difference between politically themed games and political statements in games. And there's nothing wrong with having a politically themed game when it's done right. Something like Fallout, which is a massive and great example. Metal Gear Solid, another great example. There's nothing wrong with having politically themed games, but it's changed from politically themed to political statements that no one gives a fucking shit about. And back to Ubisoft and BioWare. They made great games over 10 years ago, but now with the release of Dragon Age the Vanguard and Star Wars Outlaws, and, you know, we can already see the way that Assassin's Creed Shadows is going, that these companies have diverged from what they originally were doing, focusing on just making great games, focus on the core gameplay, the core content of the games, not trying to push some bullshit ideology in video games. And I hope that more companies should be scared of what actual gamers have to say. And you may think that like, oh, we shouldn't have to threaten, like you threatening these companies and you making these companies scared is a bad thing. Well, the people who originally started pushing these ideologies in these video games did the exact same thing years ago. They were the ones, they are the reason why that so many of these games are now trying to, and these companies are now trying to push DEI and these gaming ideologies in video games, because they threatened these companies. They made these companies scared that they should have these things in their games. So if they're going to do that, we have every right to combat that with our own statements. But I would definitely like to hear what you guys think about all this down below. What do you think when it comes to this statement itself, what these developers said? Which side of this, like, you know, kind of, I guess you could call it like Gamergate 2, really. It doesn't have an official word to it, but I definitely feel like it's a bit of Gamergate 2. Which side of this argument are you on? But that's going to be it from me. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Peace out.